Metropolitan Trust Bank's marble lobby had never felt so cold as it did that Friday morning, watching security pack up my family photos and 5 years of work into a cardboard box. 15 years after my father's disgrace, history was apparently repeating itself. I expected better from you, Sarah, Marcus Graham, the bank's chief risk officer, said with practiced disappointment, digging into closed cases, accessing sealed files. Your father's obsession with conspiracy theories destroyed his career. Don't let it destroy yours too. I carefully wrapped the photo of Dad and me at my college graduation, the last picture we took before his heart attack, before everything fell apart. The transaction patterns are identical, I said quietly. If you just look at the data. Enough. He slammed my desk drawer shut. The Peterson case was settled years ago. Your father's wild theories about systemic fraud were thoroughly debunked. The board's decision is final. My name is Sarah Chin, and until today, I was a senior fraud analyst at Metropolitan Trust, one of the country's largest banks, the same bank that had fired my father for trying to expose what he claimed was a massive financial conspiracy. But I found something they'd missed. Something that proved he might have been right all along. Tom from it caught me at the elevator. They're already locking down your access, he whispered, but I saved everything you flagged. It's safe. I nodded slightly, thinking of the secure server we'd set up months ago. Keep me posted. The autumn rain felt appropriate as I walked to my car, matching my mood. 5 years of building my reputation, of trying to restore the Chen name in banking circles, all erased because I dared to question the official story about my father's investigation. My phone buzzed. A message from Jenny in compliance. They're reviewing all your cases now. Graham's team is going through everything. Good luck understanding it all. The thing about financial fraud is that it hides in patterns, small discrepancies, subtle irregularities that most people miss. Dad had taught me to see them, to recognize the stories numbers tell when you know how to read them. Never trust the obvious narrative, sweetie, he'd say, showing me bank statements and transaction logs. Money leaves traces like footprints in snow. You just have to know where to look. I drove to Dad's old house. My house now, though I'd never had the heart to change much. His home office was exactly as he'd left it, down to the financial journals stacked on his desk and the whiteboard covered in his neat handwriting. But something was different. The old filing cabinet, always locked in my memory, was slightly open. Inside, I found something I'd never seen before. A battered USB drive taped to the back of a folder marked Peterson Final Notes. My hands trembled as I plugged it into my laptop. The files were encrypted, but I recognized Dad's pattern. He always used significant dates as keys. His wedding anniversary unlocked the drive. What I found made my blood run cold. Emails, transaction records, internal memos. Dad hadn't just been investigating the Peterson investment fraud. He'd uncovered something much bigger, a pattern of sophisticated financial manipulation going back decades. But it was the memo dated 2 days before his heart attack that made me gasp. Sarah, if you're reading this, something has happened to me before I could finish. The Peterson case isn't just about one corrupt investment manager. It's the tip of an iceberg that goes to the heart of Metropolitan Trust. The pattern repeats every 7 years. Major clients' accounts are drained through a series of complex transactions disguised as legitimate investments. The money disappears into offshore accounts, then returns laundered clean through subsidiary banks. I've tracked over $3 billion moved this way since 1990. But I needed proof that would stand up in court. That's what I was close to finding when they shut down my investigation. Everything is documented here. The accounts, the transactions, the names. But most importantly, I found the algorithm they used to hide the money movements. Once you understand the pattern, you can predict where the money will flow next. According to my calculations, the next cycle begins soon. Watch account series XR7, especially transfers to Singapore banks. That's where it will start. Be careful who you trust. Some of the names in these files belong to people at the highest levels of the bank. I'm sorry I couldn't finish this myself, but I know you'll see what I saw. You always understood the stories behind the numbers. Love, Dad. I sat back, my mind racing. Dad hadn't been paranoid. He found something real, something big enough to get him silenced. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Riverside Park, noon tomorrow. Bring your father's files. P. Peterson, the investment manager whose fraud had triggered Dad's investigation. The man who disappeared after taking the fall. I checked my encryption software, making sure the USB's contents were securely backed up to multiple locations. Then I started reading everything, every memo, every transaction record. By midnight, patterns were emerging. Dad had been right. The seemingly random investment losses followed a complex but predictable algorithm. And according to his calculations, the next cycle was due to begin in exactly 1 week. My phone buzzed again. Jenny from compliance. Sarah, something weird is happening. Graham's team just pulled all digital records from 2008 to 2010. They're looking for something specific. They knew. They must have realized what I found in Dad's old cases. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They thought firing me would stop the investigation. They didn't know about Dad's USB drive, about the evidence he gathered, about the patterns he'd discovered. I looked at my father's whiteboard, at his meticulous notes about money flows and offshore accounts. In 1 week, according to his calculations, another $500 million would start moving through Metropolitan Trust's systems. Unless someone stopped it. It's not about proving the fraud, Dad had written in his final notes. It's about preventing the next one. The evidence isn't just in past transactions, it's in what they're about to do. Tomorrow, I'd meet Peterson. But first, I had work to do. The rain had stopped, but Dad's office still felt charged with energy as I worked through the night, cross-referencing his findings with current account activities. Everything matched. The patterns were there, waiting for someone to see them. And in 7 days, they would try again. Part 2. Following the money. Riverside Park was quiet at noon on a Saturday, just a few joggers and dog walkers enjoying the autumn sunshine. I sat on the bench Dad used to favor, his USB drive secure in my pocket, watching for any sign of surveillance. Your father always liked this spot. The voice came from behind me. Said you could see the whole city, but nobody could sneak up on you. I turned. Peter Peterson looked nothing like his old bank photos. The distinguished investment manager had become a gray-haired man in a worn jacket, his eyes sharp but wary. Why now? I asked. After 15 years? He sat beside me, keeping his voice low. Because they're about to do it again. And this time, it's bigger than ever. For the next hour, Peterson filled in the gaps in Dad's investigation. The fraud wasn't just about stealing money, it was about power. A small group of executives at major banks had created a system for laundering billions in illegal funds. Your father figured out the algorithm, Peterson explained. The 7-year cycle, the offshore transfers, everything. But he didn't know who was really behind it. And you do. He handed me a phone, a burner completely clean. Everything's on here. Names, dates, recordings. I've been gathering evidence since they forced me out, but it's not enough without the proof your father found. I showed him Dad's files. His hands trembled as he read. This is it, the missing piece. With this and my evidence, we can stop them. No, he corrected. We can destroy them. My phone buzzed. Jenny from compliance. Sarah, emergency board meeting called for Monday. Something about historical account reconciliation. Graham looks nervous. They were accelerating the timeline. The fraud cycle wasn't starting next week. It was starting Monday. Peterson saw my expression. What? We don't have a week. They're moving now. He stood up quickly. Then we need help. Real help. The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. While Peterson contacted his connections in financial regulation, I worked with Tom to analyze the current account patterns. Dad's algorithm was perfect. We could see the preparation happening, accounts being positioned, offshore entities being established, everything following the pattern he'd documented 15 years ago. But this time, we were watching it happen. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Ms. Chen, this is Agent Diana Martinez, FBI Financial Crimes. We need to talk about Metropolitan Trust. The FBI had a task force ready. They'd been investigating similar patterns at other banks but could never prove the connection. Dad's algorithm was the key they needed. The money moves through a series of seemingly legitimate investments. I explained to the task force. Each transaction looks normal on its own. But when you map them according to this pattern, you can see the whole network. Agent Martinez finished, and predict their next move. Peterson's evidence proved crucial. He'd recorded conversations, gathered documents, tracked the money for years. Combined with Dad's algorithm and my current analysis, it painted a picture of corruption that went beyond anything we'd imagined. Sunday night, we set the trap. The FBI placed agents throughout Metropolitan Trust. Tom gave them access to real-time transaction monitoring. Peterson's contacts in other banks were ready to track the money flows. Monday morning, I walked into the bank's marble lobby one last time. Not as an employee, but as part of something bigger. The board meeting was set for 9 a.m. Graham and his conspirators would initiate the transfers, thinking they had complete control. At exactly 8:55, I sent a mass email to every board member, major shareholder, and financial regulator. The Peterson fraud wasn't what you were told. Watch the accounts. Watch what happens next. The truth is about to come out. Graham tried to stop the meeting. Too late. The transactions began exactly as Dad's algorithm predicted. Money flowing through private channels, heading for offshore accounts, and straight into the FBI's surveillance net. Kill the transfers, Graham shouted when agents entered the boardroom. Shut it down. But that only made it worse. The panicked attempts to stop the money movement created a clear trail of evidence. Everything Dad had predicted, everything Peterson had documented, played out in real time. By noon, the arrests began. Graham, 3 board members, executives at partner banks, the entire network crumbling as each person rushed to save themselves. My phone buzzed one last time. Agent Martinez. We got them, all of them. Your father would be proud. The next weeks were intense. Congressional hearings, criminal indictments, financial industry reforms. Metropolitan Trust survived, but transformed. New leadership, new oversight, new commitment to ethical banking. Peterson was cleared of all charges, his reputation restored. He now teaches banking ethics at Columbia. Jenny runs the new compliance division, implementing systems based on Dad's algorithm to detect fraud patterns. Tom heads its security, making sure no one can ever hide money movements again. And me? I was offered my old job back with a promotion. I turned it down. Instead, I established the Chen Financial Integrity Institute, dedicated to developing new ways to detect and prevent banking fraud. We train regulators, consult with banks, and help whistleblowers expose corruption. Last week, I received a letter that made me cry. Dear Ms. Chen, 15 years ago, I lost my life savings in what I now know was part of the fraud your father tried to expose. Today, I received restitution from the settlement fund. Your father was a hero, and so are you. Thank you for finishing what he started. James Wilson. I keep that letter in Dad's old office, my office now, next to his original whiteboard. His notes are still there, preserved behind glass. A reminder that one person who understands the patterns can change the whole system. The Chen Financial Integrity Institute is different from traditional banking. We encourage questioning, investigation, pattern recognition. Every analyst is taught to look beyond the obvious, to see the stories that numbers tell when you know how to read them. Graham and his co-conspirators are in prison. The 7-year fraud cycle is broken. But most importantly, Dad's reputation is restored. The bank officially acknowledged his investigation had been right all along. Yesterday, a young financial analyst showed me something she found, a new pattern of suspicious transactions in cryptocurrency markets. Everyone says it's just market volatility, she said nervously, but I think there's something else. Look deeper, I told her. Numbers never lie. They just need someone brave enough to read their story. The financial industry has changed. New regulations, new oversight, new commitment to integrity. But the most important change is in culture. Now people know that someone is watching, someone understands the patterns. Last month, I spoke at a banking conference. A student asked what it felt like to be fired that rainy Friday morning. It felt like failure, I admitted. But sometimes what looks like failure is actually the beginning of something important. The key is to believe in the truth, even when everyone tells you you're wrong. Dad's USB drive sits in a safe in my office. We don't need it anymore. Its contents are part of the public record now. But I keep it as a reminder that one person's dedication to truth can change everything. And it all started with a father's determination to expose corruption and a daughter's courage to finish what he began.